welcome to my channel. My name is Linda. I have a couple of fun crafts for you today. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Today we are working on Rustic Country Farmhouse Christmas home decor crafts, so let's get started with project number 1. That was a lot of descriptive words, wasn't it? For this project, remember our last video we made this rustic wood light bulb? Well, I thought, let's turn it into a fabric light bulb. So I have a free pattern for you. Link to my blog in the description box. The pattern is 2 pages. Page 1, you'll have A and B here, dotted lines, dash lines, I guess. You're going to cut that out and tape it together at the dash lines to form a piece like this, but a little bit prettier. And you're going to cut 5 out of whatever fabric you choose. The second page, you for sure have to cut out this round piece and this one piece of fabric, which is 3 by 12.5 rectangle, of course. And then you're going to have the option between this one or this one, depending on the stiffness of your fabric. This is the handle part or hanger part of the ornament top. And if your fabric is really stiff and can hold its shape, you'll do the skinnier one. But if your fabric is really flimsy, you're going to want to do the thicker one or wider one, I guess. So these 2 fabrics both came from Hobby Lobby. They're like, the back one is like an upholstery fabric, and the front one I think you can find in the regular fabrics. You can use whatever you want and no batting. I know you need to sit down. I've already cut 5 of those shapes, 1 circle, 1 of the long rectangle, which is this right here. Wanted to remind you again, and I'm going to have to use the thicker shape. See, it's our handle, but again, if you have the more stiff fabric, you can use the thinner shape. All right? Okay, so I made this one already. It was kind of my demo. You can see how cute our little light bulb turns out. And it's actually about 17 inches in height, not including the handle. But see how stiff this material is? So it's the thinner of the 2 options. And you can see how flimsy the other one is. And what we'll do is if it's thicker, we'll kind of do a trifold on it to give it a little bit of, substantial weight to it. Now, if you're a gluer, fabric glue or hot glue, you're going to have right sides together. This is the back side. Right sides together means the pretty side, okay? And you're going to put 2 together, making sure you line up all the edges. I'm turning it the way it's easier for me. And then you're going to glue just right along one long edge. Okay, and glue it together. For your sewer, of course, we're going to sew that together. So I'll do this first one on camera. We're just going to sew right down there. And I'm just using about, I think it's a 1/4 inch seam allowance for sewers. If you don't like to machine sew, but you want it sew and love to hand sew, you, of course, can hand sew. All right. Now we've got 2 together like this. All right. Now we want to add our next piece. You're going to open this one up. Again, pretty sides together, match up all your edges, clear down from one end to the other. And if you're a gluer, you're going to glue it. Just like we did before, if you're a sewer, you're going to sew it. One more time. I apologize. I have no clue why this is not in focus at all, but you get the gist. I'm just going to do this second one, and then I will sew the rest of the pieces off camera. But all the way down to the end, glue or sew. All right, now, we're going to continue on that. You're going to take your 4th piece, again, matching up the side seams, glue. All right? Or sew. Ta-da! Sewn. All right, we've got 4 pieces together. We're going to hit our last piece. All right? So the last piece, we don't have to leave an opening anywhere because our top is essentially our opening. So if you're a gluer, you're going to glue one side. I'm going to pin it here so I can keep it together. And then you're going to pop over and join with the other one and glue it. All right, I'm going to sew both sides, and then that's our opening. Okay, so basically you're just joining the last piece to both sides of the fabric. This is what it looks like, and then we're just going to turn it right side out. Nice and easy. Got our bottom together, no hole. Going to set that aside and work on our ornament topper. All right, so this bottom piece is this, and my first one had like really cute design at the bottom because this is like a placemat. I tend to buy these nice chunky placemats at thrift stores. And so you can either fold your top up and glue it or sew it, or you can take some pinking shears. 100% of you are with me on this, and you can just cut one end to give it a little decorative edge. And if you don't have pinking shears, like I said, you can fold it up and glue it or sew it. But now there, decorative edge, just like on the placemat, sorta. Now we're going to put it together. I'm just going to overlap like this. And let me grab my ruler. It's a 1/2 inch overlap, okay? 1/2 inch. All right. Now, if you're a gluer or sewer and you don't want that seam to hang out, glue or sew that closed. Let me finish that thought. You can turn it right sides together, pretty sides together, and glue or sew along that edge and then turn it back the other way. This one, I left the edge out because it had that on the placemat, and then I got it off center, but that's okay. It doesn't bother me. We will line up our other one, but you can see my center where I overlapped it is not center. All right, I'm cutting with the pinking shears to make it look pretty again, and I'm going to just overlap it like this. All right, I've got it sewn. Now, I was playing with a fancy stitch. You can just do a straight stitch, but I was just like, huh. And then I didn't even get it straight. But, you know, that's the fun of the country stuff, right? It's not straight, whatever. We're going with it. Now, if you're using the wider piece for the hanger, we're going to essentially fold it like this. If you're using the skinnier piece, sit here and wait, okay? And then I'm going to use my pinking shears on one end, just to give it a little decor. Now you can use like any wire, but this is an 18 gauge wire, and cut a piece so that you have, when you place it in the center of this, you'll have a 1/2 inch space on either side. Now it's more for sewers because when we attach this side to side onto here, we don't want to sew over wire, but gluers, you can do this too. And then you would glue that wire down, fold one side over and glue that down, and then fold the other side over and glue that down. All right, sewers, I'm not going to sew this at all. I am gluing it, but if you want, you could sew down, you know, either side of your wire. Now, I found this drywall wire at the Restore or Habitat for Humanity for $1. I'm just trying it. Since it's flat and wide, I just wanted to see how it would work on projects like this. So I'm going to just cut a piece, same size as, you know, I talked with the regular wire. And it does work fine, by the way, as you'll see here. And then this is the process. You'll glue it down. I mean, you might want to go out and get some of this. It said Ace Hardware on it. I don't know what the real cost is, but it was enough to work with projects. And then I'm gluing the non-decorative side down first and then the decorative side on top, which is why I use my pinking shears. All right, and then, of course, I'm leaving it at that. Now, those of you that had the skinny piece are joining back in, and we're all going to grab our first big piece we did. We want to flip it so the pretty side is in and our decorative edge is at the bottom, or if you just folded it up, that's at the bottom. And then you're going to take your handle and just kind of shape it into a U shape. I'm making sure that my decorative edge is out. If you don't have a decorative edge or you don't want that edge to show, then, you know, make sure your pretty side of your handle is out. And I'm just adding pins here so that I can make sure that I have my seam on that bigger piece down the center. And you're just going to tuck your U shape in, pretty side like down toward the table, right? Tuck it in and you'll attach it at the sides, kind of where I pinned it, so that your seam is center. All right, you've got our little decorative edge on that rectangle piece, and it's going to look like this pretty shape toward that decorative edge. And if you're a gluer, you're going to just glue each side to that bigger piece. All right, now we want to take that top circle. That's the pretty side. This is the ugly side. We want ugly side up. And we are going to take the edge of that circle and we are going to match it up with the edge of that rectangle piece. Okay, I'm going to pin it here, right? Edge of the circle matching to the edge of the rectangle piece. All right, and I would glue it in sections. Edge of the circle to the edge of the rectangle piece. Okay, the non-decorative side, remember, because the other side's either folded up or you pinky sheared it. All right, you're going to do this all the way around. Now I want to show you something. I pinned mine. I took my handle out too. If you come around, you're matching up your edges and you're like, wait a minute, I got more circle that fits the rectangle piece. It's because you, like I did, when I attached my rectangle piece together, I sewed it in more than a 1/2 inch. So now I have extra on my circle. What you do is just pull that circle upward like this so it's flat. Just pull it up, but you'll see it better on this side. See, just pull it up until it's flat and it'll look like this on this side, and then you can cut off that extra later. So does that make sense? So as a sewer, I'm going to sew my handles in first. You can do this all together, but I find it easier to sew my handles in first, and here we go. Okay, and then I'm going to pin edge to edge my circle piece all the way around. It's going to be bigger, so I'm just going to, see, I've got that gap there. See, I'm going to pull it upwards until it's flat against that rectangle piece. Does that make sense? Hopefully. Just pull it up until it's flat. No ruffle there. And then I'm going to just cut off my little bit of extra. I'll cut off more later. And then I'm going to come around here and sew it. Now, if you're a sewer, you just kind of want to take this piece here and just kind of keep pulling it outward until it's flat so that it doesn't get caught in your sewing area and make a ruffle. Do you understand what I'm saying? You'll probably go an inch and you have to pull it out so it's flat. And then go another little bit, pull it out, adjust till it's flat, and sew it all the way around, okay? Oh, I hope that's understandable. All right, here we go. We've got it. It's sewn. It's ready. Now we're going to flip it right side out, pretty side out, and we have a ornament top with a hanger. All right, see, we did it. All right, now we're going to just start stuffing this a little bit, and then I'm going to set it aside. I'll finish stuffing it later, but I want to set it aside because I want to move to this. We want to stuff the top really full so that it's not like wrinkly or anything. It needs to be tight and stuffed, and this is still not enough stuffing, but we want it smooth all the way around, and there is a reason for it. And we're going to be doing the same thing on the light bulb part, but nice and smooth. So here I am stuffed, but see, when we put this top onto the bottom, if your hanger isn't stuffed or this part isn't stuffed enough, it's not going to fit right. So you want to actually stuff your light bulb so that stuffing is hanging out and that your opening is really tight full of stuffing. Because if we go to put this on and then we go to attach it, what's going to happen is it's going to kind of do this. And so we want the top of our light bulb and the bottom of our ornament to be so stuffed that when we put it together, it is flush, it is straight, it is tight with stuffing. Do you understand? So stuffing, so that's hanging out, and then we're going to add more stuffing on this. All right? Like hanging out, stuffing is hanging out of both pieces. And like I said, the open end of that ornament is just so tight with stuffing and stuffing hanging out. Now I'm going to use quilting thread. You can use upholstery thread, regular thread. I just wanted something a little stronger. I'm going to sew my hanger, of course, to my top edge. And I'm going to start by just bringing my needle through the inside of the bottom of that ornament hanger so that we hide the knot. And then I'm going to attach it to the light bulb part. It'll probably just overlap maybe a 1/4 inch. You could glue it on if you want all the way around. I would just glue a little bit at a time so that your ornament hanger is flush onto your light bulb. All right, and I'm just doing straight stitches all the way around. See how that looks? Just a straight stitch so that I'm attaching the bottom to that ornament hanger. And I'm stuffing it in. I'm kind of holding that, hanger flat against the pillow, making sure everything, like I said, is flat. How many times can I use that word? And if I come across and it looks a little wrinkly, I'll just like stuff some stuffing in that spot. All right, if I'm sewing along and I'm like, nope, that's too wrinkly there, like under my hand, it looked like it could almost be too wrinkly. I think I actually off camera went in and stuffed more stuffing in there. Okay, just sew it all the way around, glue it all the way around, however you want to do it. And then when I come to the end, I want to hide my knot. Okay, that was the last stitch. So I'm going to I brought this closer. I'm going to put my needle between the two fabrics. There's that little space there, and just pull it right up through between the two. All right, and then I can cut like the needle off, and then I'll make a few knots with the thread. And that way the knot will just kind of slip up underneath those two fabrics and you won't see it. So a couple knots and then just cut off the excess. Boom. And if your knot shows, that's okay because we're going to add some ribbon and it'll hide it anyway. Here's what we've got so far. I think it's looking pretty cute. So I don't want to do too much on here. I'm just going to do a little ribbon and some bells. I found this at a thrift store. Celebrated, I believe, is Walmart brand. I love it. It's kind of a champagne color. I'm just going to wrap it around here. So like I said, if you didn't, hide your knot very well, just wrap your ribbon around. On my red one, I didn't wrap the ribbon around because I didn't have enough. So it just depends whether you wrap your ribbon around and then just make a nice little bow. I wanted to add greenery and all that stuff, but it's supposed to just kind of be like a pillow, right? So I'm making a bow and then I'm kind of, making the tails nice here, cutting off the excess. And then I got these bells at Hobby Lobby. They're kind of flocked. I wish I had big one, or I was out. I actually have some kind of champagne color bells. I was out. But I'm going to take 2 of those flocked white bells. These are some large jump rings. You could sew them together, or if you only use one, you don't have to worry about it. But I'm going to take a couple jump rings to attach these 2 bells together because I want them to be a little bit wiggly. And then I'm going to go ahead and kind of sew my bow to the ornament hanger. You could glue it to it if you want. I just didn't want my bow to move around. And I'm going to be sewing the bells onto the bow anyway. I'm going to come through the hanger of the bell, not the jump ring, because that thread is thin. It's just going to probably come through that, where the jump ring joins probably come through that. And I'm just going to make a couple of, knots and secure the bells onto the ribbon. And I'll try and come out the bottom here and just kind of do like we did when we were hiding our thread on the ornament hanger. Make some knots right at the bottom and cut off the excess so it's all nice and neat and hidden. That makes this project complete. We'll take a look at the results at the end of the video. You can choose to use a little shimmer on it if you want. You know I did. Let's move right on into project number 2, and we're going straight into the cutting process. I didn't feel the need to show you I'm using some wood on this project. You can use whatever size wood you want. This project can be however big or little that you want it. I'm just using salvage wood. I believe these boards are 8 inches wide, and I'm cutting 4. I want them to be a little bit wider than that. So I'm going to come in and use some of this 2-inch wide like trim board. I'm going to cut 4 of these pieces. So if you want it wider, you might have to join a couple of boards together, but it's all in how you want to do it, okay? All right, and then I'm cutting the top piece, and I'm cutting it to fit, so it's maybe about a 1/4 inch bigger than all my wood pieces put together, and I'll show you that in a minute. So I end up with 7-inch, this is a 7-inch long board and about 5 1/4 inches wide. And I wanted to show you the thickness of this board is about 3/4 inches. So you can have whatever you want. I was wrong on this. This is 1 1/2 inch wide, and the thickness of this board is only 1/2 inch, but it's not going to matter. I'm going to use wood glue. And then, of course, I'm going to combine my little board to the bigger board. So in essence, I wanted my board with the 5 1/4 and then the 1 1/2. My boards are 6 3/4 inch wide and 7 inches tall. Okay, that's what I ended up with. And then I'm going to clamp each one. And once I'm done and the glue's all set up, I'm going to sand them and everything and get all the rough edges and stuff off the, off of the boards. I sand that outside and off camera. Okay, here it is all finished. I'm going to freeze the screen for a minute. You can see the width of my one board is about 1/4 inch shorter, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to place that to the inside. These are essentially going to form a box. If you remember at the beginning where I showed you a little sneaky peek, I'm going to use Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color drop cloth. I'm going to paint one side of this. I'm not worried about the inside. I'm going to paint one side, and then I end up painting one edge of my board, and it's the edge that's not glued to another board. So you're going to kind of have to figure that out a little bit. And then, of course, I will sand and distress these off camera. It was almost hard to paint over these because I wanted it just to be all wood. But in the end, I did. Here's the top of the board. So I have about 1/4 inch that's going to be out past my box shape when I glue them all together. So I painted that. I painted the sides. And in the top, I decided I wanted it a little bit darker underneath the paint there so that when I sand it, I have those dark edges showing, so I use Waverly Antique Wax mixed with water, painted that, and then I'm painting one of these large Crafting with Kimber Wonky stars. And then once that wax is dry, then I'll paint over it with the drop cloth on both of these. I'll paint the star front and back. I've done this a lot. If you're new to my channel, if I have a light colored wood, I'll usually put that Waverly Antique Wax underneath. That way, when I go to sand, I'll freeze it here. You can see that dark wax kind of cup up around that lighter colored paint. I've got all my other boards distressed and sanded, and now I'm taking black paint mixed with water and my fan brush, and I'm just splattering everything. And you're like, you're gonna have a white star on a white box? You betcha, because don't worry, it won't be right up against it. I've wanted to do one of these forever, but just have not done it, and now I'm doing it. And I know it was probably popular a couple years ago, but I still think it's fun, and I'm doing it now. So now what I'm doing is I am using wood glue again, and I'm putting my box together. As I glue, if you look at the bottom board, it's on the outside of the sideboard, and this one is on the inside of the sideboard, because if I do it this way, kind of alternate them almost, it makes more of a square shape, where you could put it the other way and just put 2 boards on the inside and 2 boards on the outside, glue and clamp together. You'll have more of a rectangle shape. So however you want to do it. Now I'm adding some wood glue here because I want to get the top down. Off camera, I do decide to add a little bit more with some nails to make sure that the top is securely, fastened to the bottom board, but I'll let the wood glue set up a little bit. Right, here it is all ready to go. I'm leaving the bottom open. I'm not worried about that. will make our ribbon that we're going to use right here from Hobby Lobby, red and cream ribbon, will make it look nice underneath. I just thought adding another piece of wood at the bottom is going to just make this even heavier. So I left that piece off. I cut it off and I'm going to fold it up, and I'll make sure I glue that together and then just wrap this and pull it nice and tight around the edge, and it'll look really nice on that inside. All right, do the same over here, bringing it around. Cut off the excess, and then I'll fold it up, in, over, nice and tight. Looks nice. On this side, because I have a little ledge hanging off, my board accidentally got a little bit short on one end, so on two sides it hangs off a little more. So I added hot glue, and I'm going to use my little spatula here to kind of shove it into those grooves so it's nice and tight against that wood. And then once that glue's set up, I'll bring it back around and, hot glue it underneath. Right? So hot glue here. Use my little silicone spatula. I'm pulling it nice and tight. I'm going to push it into that groove. So if yours sticks out all the way around, you might want to do that. And then wrap it around. I didn't want it to just come over that board because I didn't want that space between the board and the ribbon. It's just my thing. I wanted it tight up against the wood, all sides. Now I'm just bringing in lots of greenery. I love when you add hot glue to that greenery and then the branches all shrivel up. But you can add what you want on top. I wanted it really snowy and kind of wintry but country. And all my greenery usually comes from Hobby Lobby, some from Walmart. These pieces here are from Walmart. Whatever you want to add on top, you may just want a bow on top and you're done. It's however you want to do it. All right. And then I went ahead and did a 3-loop ribbon. And I just took a, pipe cleaner and wrapped it around. I did that off camera. We all can make ribbons, I hope. 3 loops, tied it in the center with the pipe cleaner. Glue that down, and then I'm using some snowy pine cones. Going to glue those into position. Again, however you want to do it. Adding some beaded berries. I love to use these. I keep using my star and picking it up so where my star is going to lay so that my berries can stick out past it, or my pine cones or my bells or anything like that. And now I'm going to set that aside a minute. I'm using 2 pieces of muslin and a piece of batting here. I've ripped the muslin into tag shape. Now I'm cutting a piece of batting. You don't have to use batting. You can cut up a piece of paper and wrinkle it up, whatever. Michael's clickable stamps, links to this and the ink and everything will be down in the description box for you. Just stamping the word believe. Easy. You can be done. I'm going to put, if you're a gluer, glue it all together. If you're doing layers or if you're just crinkling paper, you're done. I'm going to sew around it. Here's what it looks like. You can do the tag however you want. You can use a wood tag there and stamp on it, or paint on it, or no tag at all, however you want. And then I'm using Distress Oxide ink in walnut stain here, just adding a little shadowing around it to kind of allow the word to kind of have a silhouette up and around that. Here's what that looks like, and giving it a little bit of rusticness. Now I'm switching to my Beacon Fabri-Tac glue because I want to glue this to that ribbon. I think it's going to work better than the hot glue gun, and because I want the glue not to seep out like hot glue. All right, and then I'll glue my tag in between the bows of the ribbon. I've got my star all slanted. See, I told you it wasn't going to be a white star against white wood. All the color of the ribbon, all that just helps elevate it up off of the present. Adding in some rusty bells I get from Hobby Lobby. Get this last one in. I think it's cute, it's simple, it's easy. I think most of the work was just cutting my wood pieces. Glitter dust, I love this. It's clear with shimmer of silver glitter. There's lots of colors. I'll have a link down below to the Etsy shop where I get it from. Once I spray that on, that makes this project complete. So I hope you enjoyed all the projects today. I went ahead, as you see right here, and I put the other light bulb pillow in. I decorated. It's got a different bell and some script looking ribbon I think's really cute. You can do however you want. I'm going to make quite a few of these because I have some different fabrics picked out, different colors. I just think they're fabulous. I love how we took the wood light bulb from last time. Now we turn that same project into a fabric light bulb. I love the rustic of the present. Again, it's been done, but I haven't done it before. And, let's take something old and make it new again, right? I think it looks great. Leave me a comment down below. That was a long pause, right? Leave me a comment down below and let me know which project was your favorite. Give this video a thumbs up because it does help my channel to grow, and boy, am I trying to get it to grow. So thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Share it if you'd like. That also helps it to grow. I bet you didn't know that. And if you walked in here for the first time, you're just checking things out, you don't think I'm too kooky, if you're digging what you saw, before you click off, make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on another project from me. Now, before I go, I'm going to leave you with one final thought. No matter what you're facing, it starts and stops with the same question. Do you trust God? Sometimes when you're facing a difficult situation in life and it feels as though it hurts too much emotionally or physically and life just shouldn't be this way, it's the question that drives your thoughts. It's the question that Job probably asked himself in his situation. But if we know the story from the book of Job in the Bible, then we know without a doubt that his answer was a resounding yes. When you're facing something that makes no sense and you keep asking God why it's happening and you're looking for that answer of hope and healing, you need to allow your heart to open up to His grace and let your eyes adjust in the darkness to find the light of His hope. The enemy will try to keep you focused on the struggle of what you're currently facing, but you must look to the strength of God and don't allow the enemy to touch your faith. Job did just that. He stood up to the enemy and declared his faith in God, putting all his trust in what God has always done for him and would continue to do for him. In the Bible, the book of Job, chapter 13, verse 15, it says, "Though he slay me, yet will I hope in him. I will surely defend my ways to his face." It may seem like life is dumping on you and you feel like you may not be able to face it much longer. It probably feels like it's more than what you asked for, but it's in these times where your trust in God is most important. You can't allow your faith to be so caught up in the situation that you miss what God has for you, because sometimes trust is all you have left. The enemy knows your weaknesses, and he knows how to convince you to doubt your trust in God by bringing up questions that get you to relapse into the fear of the unknown. So don't allow your thoughts to surrender to this fear. In the book of Hebrews, chapter 13, verse 6, it says, "So we say with confidence, 'The Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. What can mere mortals do to me?'" You must make the important decision to let the courage of your heart grab hold of God's strength so that He can release the darkness of the enemy's thoughts. Every day you must declare who your God is. If you are sick, He is your mighty physician. If you are weak, He is your strength. If you feel alone, He is your connection. If you are sad, He is your comfort. If you are poor in spirit, He is your heavenly blessing. If you are facing darkness, He is your light. In any situation, God is your help with every need. Now is the time to release any doubts and allow God's strength to control your future and direct your paths. Make a decision to trust God with your whole heart, because He is worthy of that trust. Cast all your anxieties in His direction and trust His plan for your life, because God can handle it a lot better than the enemy wants you to think. Just like Job's declaration, in whatever you are facing, even if you don't understand why it's happening, take a stand and choose to say, "I trust in God." Choose to believe in the book of Psalms, chapter 91, verse 2, "I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust." I thank you for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.